right, we are back. This is Creativity is the Cure. I am your host, Malcolm Moore, and today I've got my good friend, Adam Myman. How are you doing today, Adam?
Great. I'm glad to be here, Malcolm. It's good to see you.
So the way we know each other is Adam and I both worked at Larchmont Charter Schools, first at a elementary school called Holly Grove and then Selma, right?
Yeah, now we're at Selma and still teaching kids.
You're still there and you're teaching fourth grade, right?
I'm still teaching fourth grade and loving every bit of it. It's the one grade where I feel like every single time something happens, I go, wow, that's something I didn't know about. So they're teaching me.
And when we work together, I would love to go in your classroom. It's always peaceful and calm and a really good vibe with everybody.
I'm glad to hear that.
Before we get deep into everything, I wanted to ask you, I was looking at your LinkedIn last night, and I love that it says educator, writer, and reader. Can you explain the reader part? Because I know that you're a great teacher. I know that you're a great writer, but why would you include that to describe yourself?
You know, I have started putting reader in my profile recently because I wanted to see if that impacted the people in my community, whether it be parents, whether it be kids, students. Right. I want them to see that I'm doing the thinking as well. I'm not just assigning reading. I'm not just giving them a book and saying, here, I think you should try it. But I want them to see that I care about the process of reading.
And that you are a continual reader as well, right?
Absolutely. Actually, on my subject line on my email, I put a reading log. So that way, when I send out my emails to people, they can actually look at a reading list of the things that the teacher is reading. And many times now I have parents giving me suggestions as a result.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah. So my newsletter, I'll put it in there and then all of a sudden I'll be like, this is what I'm currently reading. And right now it's a book by Matt George, who wrote In Deep. He's a professional surfer.
Right.
And parents will see that and then say, oh, you're into surfing. I had no idea. Yeah. So that's how I sort of got into that spirit of advertising what exactly I'm reading. It's not an isolation sport.
Right.
This is not tennis, right? When we read, we talk about it.
Yeah.
And so that's what I really wanted for my parents to see and my students as well.
I love that. I'm going to do a little intro that you have on your LinkedIn so everybody knows a little bit more about what you do. So Adam Myman has taught at both private and public schools. He has written for Edutopia, which was founded by the George Lucas Foundation. He has also written for NAIS and Classroom Corridors, which is run by the National Council of Teachers of English. Adam was referenced in the book Breaking into the Heart of Character by David Streight, which highlighted lessons he created. Adam's writing lessons have been featured in the book Focus Lessons: How Photography Enhances the Teaching of Writing by Ralph Fletcher. Adam received a Costen Fellowship to learn more about reading instruction. When he is not writing, he teaches fourth grade students at Larchmont Charter School. Adam lives with his wife, Tracy, son, Jack, and daughter, Orly. All right, what I would like to do before we get into more about what you do for a living and your passions, let's go way back in time. Are you ready, Adam?
Oh, goodness. Okay, way back in time.
What was your first creative memory? I know that you're a great teacher and writer, but when was the first time that you thought of something in your head, executed it, and brought it into the physical realm and said to yourself, where did that come from? Oh, I made that.
Well, I'll tell you, and this is the first time I felt like I was really creative. I was picked in elementary school to be Oliver Twist in the school play.
That's awesome.
And the thing that I thought was the coolest part about it all was my dad at the time was representing a great actor named John Ritter. And on show night, John came to my school play.
Whoa, no pressure.
No pressure, right? And he sat in the audience, and the best part about it all was no matter how bad I looked or how bad I sounded, the parents in the community were looking at John the whole time,
right? Not
me. And that just made me feel so much better getting off the stage.
Yeah, thank you, John.
Because where is love? I'm sure I didn't sound good. And that was the first time, though, I felt creative. And John, thankfully, was the guy who saved the day, so I did not have to look like a crazy person on stage.
Yeah.
So thank you, John.
And for younger listeners out there, John Ritter is mostly known for a TV show called Three's Company, and also a great comedian. There's so many videos of him and Robin Williams live on YouTube that you can check out. He was an amazing actor.
For actors that don't know this, I think it's John who really invented the stage fall. If you really look at those Three's Company episodes where he's falling over a couch or a swinging door is hitting him in the face, John really was so good about that.
Physical comedy.
Physical comedy is really what he was very good at. And John was really such a good guy in person.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like there was some acting going on about that. He was really just a genuine good guy.
Yeah.
And so naturally when we lost him, that was a big deal for my family. But whenever I look at something on TV and I see those stage falls or I see that door hitting him in the head, I go, gosh, he was brilliant. Nobody knows how brilliant that he was, but he was brilliant.
He made it look easy.
Yeah.
So how about your parents? Were they creative when you were growing up? And do you think their creative identity was passed on to you at all genetically? Do you ever find yourself doing something and you go, oh, I got that from my dad, or oh, I got that from my mom?
That's a great question. Actually, I think my parents were really good about instilling collaboration.
Ooh.
And if you're going to work in a creative atmosphere, being collaborative is really important.
Right.
Wanting to work with others is really key to success. And my dad was very much like that. The people in his law firm he viewed as people that should be over at our house and talking about different things. And I could see him even on deals if I was to walk into his office after school, being somebody that was constantly collaborating on different things. Yeah. My mom, she is an educator. And at the time that I was growing up, she taught elementary school. She later on taught early childhood.
Yeah.
And so for her, I always saw that love for education, that love for her students, that idea that this is something that could be big and exciting.
Yeah.
And so those were two things that I think when I look back on my journey that I got from them. Absolutely.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I think now I get you even more.
It's a good question. I look at it back now and I think, wow, that's true. I got those things from them.
Yeah. Here's a very serious question. Do you think creativity could be implemented in curing people or at least helping people with mental health struggles like depression, anxiety? Any specific insight for yourself or others that you've worked with, or maybe your friends?
Absolutely. I mean, look, the profession I'm in as a teacher, there's a burnout rate.
Yeah.
And, I'd say after the first 5 years, people start looking at their paychecks. They start thinking about how hard they're working. They start thinking about the amount of professional development they need to go on to feel successful at their job.
Right.
And the reality is that if they had an outlet to go to, they would probably last longer. When I got to year 5, I'd say, of teaching, I was a hard worker at that time. I didn't feel like letting up. I didn't feel like leaving the classroom, but I did feel like, what else could I be doing to give myself a breather?
Right.
And at that time, I started writing a short story at night.
Yeah.
That's what I did.
Yeah.
And the short story was about 2 teenagers, and it was really, for me, an outlet. I didn't expect anything else to come from it. I expected it to go in a drawer.
Right.
That's me where it lived. And it kept on being this short story that I kept growing and growing and growing. And then eventually I thought to myself, this is pretty good.
Yeah.
I wonder if I could publish this.
Right.
And so then I decided to self-publish. And I actually did it under a different name because I was so scared about the idea of publishing. Like, that to me was like not what I was trying to do. I was trying to do something for myself.
So I got to hear, what was your pen name?
Mr. M. Right.
It sounds like a James Bond villain.
Right. It sounds terrible. When I look back on that that name, I go, gosh, why don't you just use your name? Because this is just ridiculous. Yeah. But like, I looked at it at that time, was so nervous about the idea of sharing.
Yeah.
And when you're a creative person, you shouldn't be afraid of sharing. That's the number one thing you should be doing readily. And I got better at that because of that one moment. And then since then, when I write, I just share it with my name.
For any person, especially artists trying something new, it's a big leap of faith at first, right?
Right.
But it sounds like it really grew naturally for you. It came, you were doing art for the sake of art, something for some escapism, and then you were like, this is pretty good.
And since then, I have to tell you, everything I write, I write with that same idea of this is my outlet. I don't write with the same, I don't write with the idea of I have to get published tomorrow.
Right.
I write with, I'm going to take my time. I'm going to write something that I want to share. And now when I share it, I think to myself, wow, it felt so good doing that.
Yeah.
And whether it's an article on Edutopia or a short story that someday will come on out, these are just things that I'm sharing and thinking that's my release.
Yeah. Yeah. And that probably helps you as a teacher if your students are fearful of writing their thoughts down or writing a story or writing anything. You really know both sides. You're a teacher, but you're also a writer.
Oh, they're the first people I share it with.
Yeah.
I mean, they're the first people that I share it with. Hey, guys, I came up with this rough draft. I want to share.
Because kids are brutally honest. They're the best.
They're brutally honest.
Especially elementary kids.
They're brutally honest. Fourth graders are brutally honest.
Yeah.
And at the same time, they also look at it and they go, wow, okay, now I understand what a lead-in looks like.
Yeah.
Now I understand what a conclusion looks like.
That's a great
So
way
it
to
becomes
teach.
their mentor text also at the same time. And that, to me, it serves us both. It serves us both. We're now, I would say, we become that community of writers rather than I'm giving you a strategy, good luck.
Right. Right now, here's a question. Have you ever shared your writing with your students and a student offered a perspective that made you rethink something or even change something?
It's a really good question. Actually, 3 years ago, I had a student and they gave me a note. The note was, how come you used this kind of dialogue? Why didn't you say this instead?
Yeah.
And it made me sit back and think, did I not develop that character enough?
Yeah.
Did I not develop that character's voice?
Right.
And I went back that night and actually started playing around with that character a lot more because of that student.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah. I was really like, this is a kid, and the kid's now in middle school, actually. Yeah. And I thought to myself, wow, he really helped me become a better writer.
Yeah. That's amazing. Have you ever used creativity to solve challenges in your life? Now, when I got here, I was explaining how it's my belief that we not only used the improvisational part of our brain to make art, like writing and music and things like that, but also to improvise on the spot when you're faced with a big challenge in life.
I would say that the big challenges that I've had in life and how they mirror to creativity have been centered around a couple of different themes. One time, I'll say this, I'm a controlled epileptic.
Okay.
I had seizures growing up.
Right.
And finally, in adulthood, I was thinking about those times in my life that I had those seizures.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
I'm under control, luckily under control right now. And I wrote a short story about that journey.
Oh, wow.
And again, just for me, no intention of publication, wrote it for me.
Was that cathartic for you?
It was for me. I gave it to my dad and my mom and gave them a chance to read it. Yeah. And they said, we had no idea that you felt like that, And it was interesting. They knew I had frustrations. They knew my feelings. But like when you see it on paper, it's a different deal. Mm-hmm. And I think when they saw it on paper, they had that same, oh, man, it was a different deal. And they said, it's the best thing you ever wrote. And at the same time, I didn't think so yet. Like I felt like it still needed revising personally. But to get it out and to get that feeling on paper was definitely important to my journey as an epileptic.
Yeah, that's amazing. My favorite type of book, I read a lot like you, but my favorite books are biographies. I love to see the personal struggles people go through, how they overcome them. And I've often read interviews with my favorite authors and found out that it was cathartic for them too.
Yeah.
Especially when you go back through your life and look at all the phases you went through. I think writing it and working through it, or maybe make it into a movie or a TV show, is really amazing what you discover about yourself.
I'm very lucky, and also very lucky that I'm under control.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of people that have epilepsy that get to be as lucky as I am.
And there might be other people that are epileptic out there that it helps.
I hope so.
You were in the entertainment business before education. I would like to know, what did you do and what made you switch into education from entertainment?
So I was director of current programming, and I had been at different networks doing that. I started out as a director of current programming. I was at ABC, before that UPN, when UPN wasn't around.
Right.
And I think that for me, I went in with that same mentality of collaboration is important, right? Like we were talking about my mom, my dad. And as the longer I stayed in there, the more I realized that entertainment was no longer about collaboration on the level that I thought it could be.
Interesting. Can you give me an example?
I saw a lot of writing staffs become smaller.
Right.
I saw a lot of the same talent being used over and over again. Mm-hmm. And so for me, I kept thinking about, well, where are the new voices? Where are where's the next young talent, and not young by age, but young by maybe years of experience.
Right.
And so I think that it's getting harder and harder because people are eager to find the next great hit.
Right.
But I think that there's a lot of voices out there that haven't been tapped yet. And at that time, that's when it was really starting. And the job for me, I didn't know where I was going with it.
Right.
I didn't really see myself being somebody that was going to be, chairman of something. That didn't sound exciting to me. What sounded exciting to me was the idea of seeing a concept all the way through, seeing creativity on the screen. That sounds fun to me. And now I get to work with writers that take all my notes, that are younger in scope, that are fourth graders, and they're putting out things that I think are just amazing on paper.
Yeah.
And so for me, taking the switch, I had always had an interest in working with kids. I'd been a camp director. I had been a camp counselor. I tutored. There was a lot of things I did with kids. And I just thought, if there was ever a way that I could get back to that world, that would be wonderful.
Yeah.
And so I started going to school at night to get a credential.
Right.
And eventually made the switch.
So instead of making the next Stranger Things, you found that group of kids and you actually work with them every day.
I still think I'm making the next Stranger Things. It's just that when I look at the kids, they're doing the same thing too. They're thinking, wow, this is amazing. I wrote this whole thing. And they're so excited by things that have blood and guts for no reason whatsoever, beyond that they got it down on paper and it was important to them. Or they buddy wrote and they wrote something and they're going, oh, look at this. Look, he wrote this and I wrote this. Can we have buddy writing today? And the other thing is I took this lesson from Ralph Fletcher, and most of the time, beginning of my career, I started calling it free write.
Right.
Okay. That implies that I'm charging them at other times of the day. And so I stopped calling it free write. Now we call it joy write in my classroom.
Okay.
And so the kids come to me and are like, are we going to have a joyride time today?
Wait, so how does that work for people that don't know?
Oh, okay. So there's times, obviously, where I'm within a writing unit where I'm asking them to write specific things, realistic fiction,
Right.
Opinion essays, right? There's certain things that I am doing in the curriculum that I'm initiating.
Right.
But there's times within my day where I want them to be living a writerly life, where I want them to go ahead and write what they want to write about. And so I've scheduled more time in my week for them to do what I call a joyride.
Yeah.
And that can be anything that they want to write about. And for kids that are having a hard time producing writing, this can be a great way to really get them going, because now they're writing about things that they are interested in.
Right.
And that's the key to making any really good curriculum is when you look at your work, how can you get them more engaged? And typically it has to do with their interests.
Yeah. You learn more about your students. That's amazing.
Yeah. I'm very lucky that has been a part of what I've been going for is the Joyride. I highly recommend it to teachers all around. Just look for ways that you can go ahead and get them joyriding.
Wow. Tell me more about Edutopia. How did you get involved? And for people out there, what is it?
So George Lucas has this foundation, this education foundation, and he has spearheaded the idea of encouraging teachers to share.
Right.
And to me, like we were talking before, sharing is very important. And so I had at that time was reflecting a lot in a journal on reading. And I started taking notes very carefully, just every single time I put down a book, what did I learn about this process? When I was teaching reading, what did I learn about this process? And I started looking around and thinking, wow, there's a lot here. I wonder if I could write one of these articles for Edutopia.
Right.
And so I pitched online, sent in some things and said, hey, these are what I'm interested in doing.
So just so everybody knows, is that how it works? If you find Edutopia interesting and you want to contribute, you have to kind of apply.
Yeah, you go online, you go ahead and apply through their website, and you definitely will find yourself thinking, oh, I could write a pitch. I think I could pitch this. Yeah. And the first thing I did was about grand conversations, which is essentially a hands-down conversation. Imagine your kids are sitting in a circle, your students are sitting in a circle, and they're talking about a book or a math problem or a science concept, and without raising their hands. So that's the sort of the key, is that they now have to have a real conversation like we're doing right here without raising their hands for you to engage in. And I started taking notes on what my students were doing during these grand conversations.
Right.
And that's what I wrote about.
Yeah.
And the article's still up there. And then I started thinking, what else is it that my kids are doing? And I started taking more notes. And then a follow-up article was, I believe the follow-up article was about small group instruction in reading. And I then said, oh, I think there's something here. I'm going to go ahead and pitch that. Yeah. And then before I know it, there's like 4 articles on Edutopia, and that's just the grace of luck that they liked my stuff, and I'm very appreciative of it. I still do that same writing mentality of journaling about the things I'm doing in the classroom. Right. And then saying to myself, is this something that I could pitch? Oh, yeah, I think I could. I think there's something here.
What's the feedback been like from other people that write for Edutopia?
I was amazed at how many people actually read the article. Because for me, like I said, I'm writing this in my bed. Okay, for me, I'm like looking at this. Tracy's next to me, and I'm writing this in my bed before I go to bed, thinking this is got a paragraph here. I think this is pretty interesting. I'm going to go with this. Yeah, and 42,000 people saw one of them.
Good God.
right? I don't know 42,000 people, Malcolm. I know like you and like my family, like that's really, and the people I work with at school. And so for like me to like walk in one day and somebody came up to me at work and was like, I really liked your writing. And I was like, oh my gosh, you and like my grandma, at the time, and so for me, it was like a big deal. I was like, oh, you and my mother and like the 3 people probably saw this.
Right.
And then I get like the call from Edutopia, and Edutopia is like, oh, we're at like 4,000 right now.
Wow.
4,000 views. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm so amazed.
Incredible.
Because I expected 2, right? I really expected 2 people to read it. Okay. And so if you do read them, thank you very much, by the way. I should say that because I'm so grateful for anybody who ever reads. I was going to say,
it must be so gratifying.
It's really cool.
It's one thing to create something, but to get a positive response probably feels great.
The one that people keep coming up to me, they all come up to me on different ones, but the one that people really like is about the Reader's Notebook.
Yeah.
And the Reader's Notebook got a big response where that's really, when I was in middle school, you wrote in the margins of your book. Yeah. That's what you did, right? Yeah. You annotated.
I remember.
And the Reader's Notebook is the offshoot of that.
Oh, okay.
It is essentially, how can I do that, but in a notebook? So I'm not feeling stifled in the margins of my book.
Right.
I mean, I still have my Catcher in the Rye copy, and you can see the faded, you can still see the faded pencil marks of all that. And I'm going, boy, you can't see anything. I wish that somebody could look back on their Reader's Notebook years from now and say, oh, this is what was important to me.
Yeah.
And so that's the point of the Reader's Notebook. And it seems like that got a lot of attention from people. So I'm grateful for all the people who are reading out there. Thank you.
Amazing. So if people want to read your stuff, can they just go to Edutopia or do they have to have like a subscription or join?
I think you just join, and that's very easy to do. It takes no stance. Put your email and your password that you want,
right?
And then you just go on anytime. But there's a lot of great articles by a lot of great educators, not just me. I was reading one the other day that was about self-help. I read another one that was also about literacy. Somebody had one about STEM.
Yeah.
So there's so many great things, and the idea is to help people in education.
Yeah.
So take it, make it your own. It's great for professional development purposes. Principals that are looking to add to their professional development days. It's a great way to find an article.
Back to the collaboration.
Yep, absolutely.
You posted a couple days ago that you knew everybody was excited to hear your top books of the year. I would like you to tell me, what was one book that you absolutely loved last year? What was it, and why did you like it?
There was 2 that I really fell in love with the writing. And is by a guy named Alex Gross, who's not with us anymore, apparently, is what somebody said. But he wrote a book called The One Man. And The One Man takes place during Nazi Germany.
Okay.
And he writes the idea that the United States has this idea of saving a scientist who's in Auschwitz.
Right.
And being held prisoner. And so he gets dropped off in Germany and takes this assignment. And so our hero, you're rooting for throughout the whole time. And it feels like one of those feelings of you can't put it down, right? You just can't put it down. What's going to happen to this guy next? What's he really thinking? And the momentum that he with the way he writes is just so impressive. I hope that I can write like that. It just such momentum within his storytelling.
Keeps you engaged.
Keeps you really engaged. I really loved it a lot. The book I think I mentioned before right now that I'm reading, if you read Surfer Magazine when it was Surfer Magazine, I should say that, you probably read Matt George's work. He was an editor there and a writer, and he just writes characters, basically. He looks at people like Kelly Slater, and I look at Kelly Slater and I think, what a great surfer. He looks at them with an emotion, with a sense of like, this is that guy, this is that person who's sleeping on the bed with like other people in the room. This is him on a trip, and he really gets you into their world. there was a surfer, a female surfer that he was writing about, and he was writing about that at night they become a DJ. And so he was sort of seeing that they're not just famous people on boards, but they're people with real lives. And I just thought, wow, he's made these surfers so real to everybody else. So In Deep is the name of his book, but it's essentially all these articles that he wrote for Surfer Magazine.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's great. So if you're into Surfer Magazine when it was around, this book is great.
Well, I've got to ask you the big question. Are you a surfer?
I would say that I love going in the ocean. I would say I love bodyboarding and body surfing. And I started doing stand-up paddling with my dad one time and with another teacher I knew, and she was out here. But being on a longboard, I would say I can do it, but not with the grace of Kelly Slater.
Yeah. And you know that we have a mutual friend who is also a surfer, Sarah Ian.
Absolutely.
Yes. I remember when I first started, this is like 13 years ago, sometimes she would come in a little bit late to school with some sand in her hair because I knew that she got up early and went down to catch some waves.
Sarah is amazing. I always say she's Gidget. I'm always like, she's that person who, like, on her vacation, she's gone surfing probably.
Yeah. She's such an amazing teacher, and I always think that she's got this Zen quality. We've all got our own styles, but I would go in her room, and the way that she would just weave and ride the chaos, and still everyone would have fun. I'd always like to just sit in, and actually with a lot of the teachers I used to work with, just to watch how someone else teaches. Do you ever do that? And is that helpful to you at all?
When at the first campus that we were at, there was more teachers where you felt like you could be off their schedule and go see what's going on in their room.
And sometimes we would plan it.
And those were moments that I value a lot.
Yeah.
Actually, I remember even going to other schools that I was set up to go to. And Sarah and I actually went to a school.
Yeah.
And we went into a math class, and it was sixth grade math, which I'm never going to be teaching sixth grade math, just to clarify.
Me either.
But I remember looking around and going, wow, look at how this teacher's doing that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think for teachers in general, whenever you get the chance to go to either another school, another classroom within your school, those are great learning moments.
You'll always come away with something.
You always do. You inevitably come away with something that you can use in your classroom. Ultimately, a really good professional development means it's something you can use in your classroom tomorrow. Right. There's so many things that I've gone on. I thought, well, I'm never going to use that tomorrow. Right.
And one thing I loved that they did at Holly Grove is at most schools, the way they do observations just to see how you're doing is they'll send the admin in, like the principals, and they'll give you notes, and that's great and that's helpful. But I loved when the teachers would swap, like with each of us. Like I would go in your room, or you'd come in my room, and it was fun, and I'd always take something from each teacher and try it out.
Somebody who I know you value is Sarah Menays.
Yeah.
Okay, another Sarah.
Yeah.
And Sarah Menays was my mentor for Costen these past 2 years.
She's absolutely amazing.
And during that process, I was what's called a reading fellow. So all of my professional development that I took over 2 years was on reading. So I saw Gravity Goldberg, I saw Nawal Karuni, and really learned a lot from each of them. And I would keep going back, and there was other people that I saw as well, Sonia Cherry Paul. And I thought to myself, these people are just amazing. If I could ever be the kind of reading teacher that they are, that would be amazing. And I kept pulling things from them each time.
Right.
Sarah was great as my mentor about setting goals with me. She would say, like, what kind of goal do you want to set this year?
Yeah.
And that would help me then sort of set the stage of what I was really going to tackle.
Yeah.
And so for any teacher out there, I would definitely think about, like, what is the one goal in your workshop, in your writing workshop, your reading workshop, your math workshop that you want to tackle this year.
Yeah.
Rather than feel like you have to tackle everything.
Yeah.
Aim for one.
Yeah.
And that's what I felt like I did really well with Sarah.
I really personally owe a lot to her for my teaching career because at the very beginning, I got hired as a behaviorist. I was not a teacher. And a couple times she let me get up there and try to teach. The first couple times were awful. And I was like, I don't know what went wrong. And she goes, well, it's one thing to know a topic, but then to be able to teach it is a whole nother ballgame. And it took me a while, but I really owe her a lot because that first year she would let me try it from time to time. And yeah, she's an amazing teacher, amazing mentor, and I can't say enough good things about her.
Oh, totally amazing. I hope she knows how amazing she is.
Yeah, yeah. We're just going to keep saying it over and over.
Well, I guess now she's going to hear this and now she'll know. So,
tell me about NAIS and Classroom Corridors, which is run by the National Council of Teachers of English.
So
sounds very serious.
Well, I know it makes sense. It's very prestigious sounding. The National Association of Independent Schools, NAIS. When I was in my first year of teaching, I was determined that the most important thing I could teach in my first year of teaching, if I was to never do this again, was to make sure that I taught kids about, values, the things that are important in life, the things that they could use everywhere.
Right.
That they're going to go ahead and they're going to be thinking about flexibility and patience and kindness. I wanted to really teach them that. That was important to me. And so I had them journal about all the times they've used these skills. And I was in a school that didn't have a character program at the time, not like now.
Right.
And really felt strongly I'm going to keep at it. I'm going to keep having this be a weekly thing. And everybody started looking, going, what's going on in that classroom? What's he doing? It became special. And then one day the Western Association of Schools and Colleges shows up to the school. They do their accreditation. And they then left and they said, we just have one note. The character program in second grade should be in your school all the way through to sixth grade.
Right.
And I was sort of like, wait, that's us. I was like, wait, that's me. And I was really excited about the idea that it helped my kids, but now that other people were thinking, oh, I'm going to do something too.
Yeah.
And so it inspired other people. And that's really cool to hear because I just was really trying to do something really good with my students.
Yeah.
And out of that journaling came that article. And I wrote about that whole process in that year for NAIS. And so that was really special to me. And that was my first year of teaching.
Wow. That sounds really inspiring.
Yeah, I was really grateful for the opportunity to have those kids go through that process with me. It felt like a community of people trying to just do right in their journals and talk about those experiences that they've had.
Well, that's an interesting thing about being a teacher. I think that you need to also keep having that perspective that you're a student too, right? Always learning, always pushing yourself. And well, I think this goes from being a caregiver or a teacher, or I used to do a lot of work myself with relief and development when I was a minister. And you often put out this energy. You're trying to help someone, you're trying to teach them, but I often came away feeling like I was helped even more by their response. I learned just as much as I wanted them to learn. Mm-hmm. Do you ever feel like that?
Yeah, I feel that way every single day, which I think is the reason why I'm still teaching, is I'm learning as much from them as they're learning from me.
Yeah.
And that to me is really a special feeling that I get every single day that I get to go into work. I think that first year when I was doing the character program was special because the only person I had known prior to starting teaching that was really doing that was John Wooden, right? Yeah. Okay, when we read about the pyramid of success.
Right.
He was retired, obviously, but everybody read about the pyramid of success.
I think Sarah Ian still has that poster up in her
She does. A lot of people do, right? And so for me, I was like, I'm going to make my own pyramid.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And for me,
Customized to you.
customized my own pyramid, because there were certain things on his pyramid that I go, well, I don't think it's for a second grader, but I think this could be.
Yeah.
And so for me, I basically made my own pyramid of success. And that's what we wrote about in our journals. And then the other one that you had mentioned, the NCTE, that's an organization for English teachers. And I was having a great experience with my student teaching. She just finished up with me. And I decided I've had such great experiences with student teachers. Another chance where I've had a chance to collaborate with people, where I've had a chance to talk things through with other people and really see what I'm doing and at the same time what they need.
Right.
And I wrote about that in an article and sent that over to NCTE thinking maybe they'll be interested in it. They wrote back and they were very interested in publishing it. And so for me, that was a real exciting thing that just happened, actually. Just came out on their Classroom Corridor site.
Let's talk about focus lessons, how photography enhances the teaching of writing by Ralph Fletcher.
Oh, man, he's
Give
amazing.
me a little insight on that.
Oh, goodness, if we could all be like Ralph Fletcher. He's just so amazing in his writing, in his advice that he gives teachers, in his books, in his fiction. He's got some amazing fiction out there as well. I came about that kind of in a weird way. Ralph was online and he was looking for teachers that he could connect with about an idea he had.
Yeah.
And I wrote back and said, hey, I'm actually doing something like this. We met through, in this day and age, right? It's like so Kardashian-esque to be like talking online with other people. And I went ahead and said, hey, I'd love to go ahead and talk more about this.
Yeah.
And so we talked a lot more by phone and got a sense of what he was really thinking about in the classroom. I was modeling some of that already.
Yeah.
And so after the interview, he started like writing things down and goes, what do you think about this? And so we kept on going back and forth. And then that became a big part of that book.
Yeah.
So if you get a chance to look at focus lessons, he did a magical job of writing about not just my conversations with him, but other educators as well. Yeah. And I have read it over and over and over again. And even his other books that he wrote a book about the writer's notebook.
Yeah.
And there's so many things that he's written that I would just say, go read if you're an educator. If you're in year 5, 6, wherever you're at, go read one of his books. You'll be happy.
Yeah, I think that's a great thing about the internet too, being able to connect with, people you admire, and then if you can get a conversation going, I think it's easier and less intrusive than in person. And my favorite writer has always been Anne Rice, and before she passed away, I got to write to her a lot. And at that point, I was a minister, and spirituality was important to her, and she was suggesting books that inspired me. It's just great to have that interaction, and it sounds like that experience for you has really changed your life.
That was a great educational experience.
Yeah.
And I think I was in such awe because to me, he's like this guy, I'm reading all of his books for teaching purposes. To me, that was a huge, big deal. Whenever I come across a writer and it's somebody that I really admire their work, to me, it's like I'm over the moon with excitement. Recently, I met Matt De La Pena.
Okay.
And he is a magical writer. I've read all of his books, whether they're young adult books, whether they're picture books. He's great. His picture books I've brought into my classroom to share with my kids. He's a magical writer. I was at a Costen event, and sure enough, after the event, you get a chance if you want to stand in a line and meet Matt De La Pena. And absolutely, it's like, for me, a full contact sport at that point. I'm shoving people out of the way to get to Matt De La Pena. No, I'm not doing that. Right. But it was a chance to go see and meet him, and he couldn't have been a nicer guy.
Yeah.
A really genuine person. It was great to meet Matt de la Peña, also somebody who I admire.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about David Streight and breaking into the heart of character.
So David Streight is so amazing. I got to go to a conference, and at the time, I just thought, wow, what a nice guy. He's now working for the Heart of Character, but such an amazing man. I kept hearing him talk about belonging and how important belonging is to a child. And there was so many things that rang true when I was listening to him. He had me come back to New Jersey for a workshop with a lot of other thinking minds, essentially. And here's all these people in a room, high school teachers, principals that are interested in talking about what needs to go into a curriculum to help a kid grow.
Right.
And I felt like, wow, how did I get here? Obviously, I was humbled by the idea that I was here in New Jersey with David Streight and all these other people that he values in this world. And so that's how I sort of got into the David Streight realm of things.
Yeah.
And then he quoted me in his book, Breaking into the Heart of Character.
Amazing.
And that was an exciting thing. And of course, I told my mom, I'm like, Mom, I'm in this guy's book, right? Like this. And she's like, Adam, stop. You're okay. Sure. I'm sure you're like thanked, you know? Yeah. I was like, no, I'm like really in this guy's book. And then she like reads the book finally. Yeah. And she's like, you're in his book. You're in his book. So like, that was like a funny moment. I was like, I told you, you know?
I think there's something sincere about that because both my parents are passed away, but I do miss when good things happen and going, hey, Mom, guess what? Right? I think that's always going to be with us.
And that's what that was. So I know that my mom always thinks that I'm going to do great things. But she looked at me, I remember, she was, you're like really in this book?
Here's a really fun question.
Yeah.
What were you like in fourth grade? This is for your students, if they happen to listen to this. What were you like in fourth grade? What do you remember?
I remember loving reading. I remember loving writing. I remember Mrs. Morris was my fourth grade teacher who was just so enthusiastic and so helpful to me in everything. I do remember not liking math at the time because that's when fractions became a big thing.
You're preaching to the choir, dude.
And at the time I was thinking, gosh, this is really, really hard. And at that point I knew, or I at least suspected, that if I was my folder had like a color, okay? And so I suspected that if I was in this yellow group that I must be really bad at math. Is the way I equated it. And that's not capping on Mrs. Moore. She was wonderful. Yeah. But I sort of thought, oh my gosh. And I remember my mom hiring me a tutor. And this woman was like, no, this is just what you're missing. You know, she broke it down really easily. And I went from the yellow group to the green group one day.
Ooh.
Right? And that to me was like,
I've arrived,
right? And so I never used folders like that, just to let you know, in my class, because I think it is just terrible. Yeah. Right? Somebody always does that. Whether Mrs. Morse thought that was going on or whatever, it probably had nothing to do with colors, but I equated it with colors.
Well, I think that education, obviously, over the years keeps improving and trying to take away those boundaries and things that make some kids maybe feel inferior or the other way around.
It's important to have a differentiated curriculum, a chance for kids to connect, and not feel at the same time stuck. Yeah. Right. And the fact that I felt like I moved into a different group, whether I did or didn't, whatever Mrs. Morse thought, it's not something I ever want to make sure a kid feels that same way. You know?
And I can see that maybe a teacher has a folder they don't see that has that to help them. Right. But yeah, putting that on the students is.
It's just, you have to be very careful. I now know as a teacher about what kids are really thinking. Yeah. And because it may not have anything to do with the original intent. Right.
I've got a couple quotes I'd
Okay.
like to read to you and
Okay.
hear your response. I found a really good one by Ralph Fletcher. The other thing is that it's clear to me that both writing and photography are a way of composing. And I think it's important to remember that the word photography means literally writing with light. And again, it's like something I never really thought of myself. But I think there's a lot of overlap. It sounds really funny, but I would say that in many cases, by learning more about photography, I think I began to understand some stuff about writing that I never understood before, or at least understand it in a deeper way.
Wow. He's got a great way with the pen.
Yeah.
It's interesting because when I look at pictures now after reading his book, and I think of myself, wow, what's the color that this kid has put into this picture?
Right.
Right?
Right.
And I look at that in the same way now that I look at photographs. Is there a certain darkness to it? Is there a certain lightness? Is the wardrobe different for this? And so now even the way I look at art is the same way I look at photographs.
Yeah.
And when we're writing, I think we look at those things and we think, how can I draw that image in my words?
Yeah.
Instead of telling people this is what it is, how can I take pause and really write carefully the description that I'm thinking about? How can I really set this up for my reader
Yeah.
so they can really get the most out of this experience? Why does it feel so rushed right now? Maybe I need to go back and think about what this journey was really like. Maybe there needs to be a backstory.
Yeah.
And there's so many things that he gets out of photographs that I wasn't even seeing before.
Right.
And he really does. I even follow, a great thing for anybody to do is to follow Ralph Fletcher on social media because he takes pictures of birds because he goes bird watching.
Just so people can check out, what is he on Facebook, Instagram?
He's on, I think he's on LinkedIn. I've seen him. I think he's on Facebook.
Okay.
Are the two places I've seen him.
Yeah.
He's so amazing he goes bird watching and goes into nature. So he takes lots of pictures.
Yeah.
And this is a guy that comes back and I'm looking at this bird and I'm thinking like, how did he get that close to
I always
bird?
wonder that
Like,
too.
how does
It's
one
like
get so close?
It's like Mutual of Omaha.
Yeah.
And it's always like, watch as my assistant approaches the lion.
Right. I mean, for me, I could go to Hawaii, I could sit on the beach and not take a picture at all.
Yeah.
And then there's some people in the world that sit there and they can take a picture of waves.
Yeah.
And just one wave after the other. And you look at it later and you go, wow.
Well, remember when Instagram first came out, it was just photos. There's no text.
That's right.
So I thought that was pretty fascinating back then because I think, like you say, I think photos and paintings and all artwork tell a story. I mean, no matter what medium, you got to be a storyteller, right?
And that's the truth. And I do think that even social media, when it's at its best, tells a story that's not necessarily like words, right? Like you're saying with Instagram in the very beginning, if you're seeing pictures of nature, if you're seeing pictures of a restaurant from the outside, there's so many things that are great to see on social media. Nowadays, there's also a lot of things on social media that I go, we don't need that. Nobody needs that. And so I am always hoping for people to post the more positive things.
Yeah.
And I think it's a good lesson for young kids that when they're about to go on social media to make sure that you're posting positive things.
Yeah. Really needed in the world today. My favorite solo artist has always been Peter Gabriel. And if you don't know about this, his original intent for his albums, younger listeners, these things are called albums. They have a collection of songs. This is before he just listened to one song. He didn't want to put a title. He just wanted them to look like magazine covers, just have his name and be known by the image. Now, eventually, the record company was not happy with that because they felt like they couldn't market it. So he started having titles like with two letters like So and Us and things like that. But when I was younger, that inspired me that he was thinking image first, and that also you can decipher what you think it means to yourself instead of just giving you all the answers.
You know, I grew up with album covers as well.
Yeah.
And nowadays, I don't think anybody looks on their phone and looks like the icon that small to think, oh, that's a beautiful album cover.
Yeah.
But I remember, for me, I'm a Simon Garfunkel fan.
Oh, yeah. Same.
And so when you look at the Simon Garfunkel and you see like their, you see Graceland. Right. For when just Paul Simon was doing solo. And you start seeing things, you go like, that's an amazing album cover, right?
Yeah.
There's so many things that are great, but there's also so many things that are like, kids don't look at as artwork anymore. And
well, the positive thing is I think that's coming back because a couple decades ago, I got rid of most of my records because we had to move across the country. But my students in the last 7 or 8 years started giving me albums and vinyl for Christmas. And I was like, all right, I got to go out and buy a record player again. And I'm excited that they're into what I loved because when I was a little kid, just leave me in my bedroom because I'm going to put headphones on. I'm going to open this album. I'm going to listen to it. I'm going to look at the artwork. I'm going to pull the sleeves out. I'm going to look at all the notes. I'm going to find out who produced it, who played what instrument. I love getting lost in an album. And you're right. As much as I love digital media, it's like the covers got smaller.
Yeah,
smaller,
you can. It's a thumbnail
and almost insignificant. And I also feel bad for my friends that are side musicians. Like I know a lot of guys that play drums and bass for different artists, and a lot of times they don't have the liner notes. So these people, not only are they not making money anymore, they are not getting credit for what they did.
I think it's really important when you look at all of artwork that you think to yourself, wow, that's somebody who spent a lot of time and a lot of care on something. If you look at movie posters.
Yes.
Movie posters are a work of art.
Love them.
And I think that every single thing that somebody does, whether you're the guy who did the movie poster, where you're the person who is in charge of the artwork for the record, I think that those are things that need to be looked at and thought somebody spent a lot of time and a lot of care into making that special for a viewer.
Yeah.
So I hope that people are looking at album covers.
Seems like it's coming back. Yeah.
Good.
I'm excited.
I'm hoping for that.
One more quote. This one is by George Lucas. Our system of education is locked in a time capsule. You want to say to the people in charge, you're not using today's tools. Wake up.
I think that George Lucas is amazing. I think the educational foundation that he's created is making huge strides to help people be more knowledgeable.
Yeah.
I think that there are obviously schools or educators that have not come around yet.
Right.
But there are a lot of amazing schools that believe in project-based learning.
Right.
That believe in giving kids a chance to have freedom to experiment and try new things.
Yeah.
And so it's not everywhere, but I do hear his frustration and the why behind why he took the steps to have an educational foundation.
So what do you think he meant by the tools, and do you use some of today's tools to teach?
I'm lucky. I'm incredibly lucky that I work at a school that believes in project-based learning and wants to allow teachers to do that.
Yeah.
And with that means that we're creating with the kids, not for the kids, not telling them what to do, but giving them...
It's like an extension of constructivism.
Yeah.
Me, right?
I mean, the other day I was creating a rubric with the students, and that's with the students, not me handing them a rubric.
Yeah.
And saying, what else should we hold ourselves accountable for?
Right.
And they were going ahead and saying, I think we should be making sure we use capitalization and punctuation during our writing. And how about
it seems
this?
Like that's becoming a lost art, but go on.
And then there was things like, and I think that we're making inspo boards right now.
Okay? Ooh, what are those?
So it's what they're calling it instead of calling it like a research board, they're calling it like an inspo board because we have people that are interested in fashion.
Okay.
Okay. So they're inspo boards, but our inspo boards are
I'm laughing because I know some of your students.
I know. And they're focused, the topic has to be on the indigenous people of California. So they are all very excited about the process.
I'm sorry, but so like the Chumash tribe, the Native American?
The Chumash, I'm trying to think of all the tribes that we have, but there's several tribes that are that they're studying.
Yeah.
And so that means that within a group, you've decided with your group that you are going to be responsible for geography.
Right.
Another person is going to be responsible for the process of how problems were solved within a tribe. And so people started really thinking very clearly about what they want this bigger project to look like.
Yeah.
I'm excited about the way it comes together.
Yeah.
Another time, we were studying the California Gold Rush, which to some might feel pretty dry. But the kids decided we want to go ahead and express our learning by having an art exhibit. And so we had this big art exhibit where they drew different things that happened in the gold rush that they thought, oh, this is somebody that we learned about. Let's talk about Levi Strauss.
Right.
And so by the time we were done with this art exhibit, and then we showcased it to another class, the learning within it was clear and evident and real, that these kids really took their work seriously, that they took the process seriously, that they learned the expectations that were put upon them.
Yeah.
And so when my days go by at the school I'm working at, which is Larchmont, and where I first met Malcolm, I get the benefit of really seeing and how kids are going to grow and learn and embrace different concepts. Nobody ever looks at a ditto and says, that was a fun ditto.
I've talked on my podcast about dittos.
Said nobody. That was a fun ditto. Said nobody. So I think that if you're at a school that's allowing you to be creative with your students, that's allowing you to grow with your students and try new things, then I think that you're in a winning situation. But I do hear any parent's frustration or person's frustration that feels like that there's a larger problem in play, like Mr. Lucas just pointed out in that quote.
Right. And the only other thing I want to add to that whole PBL discussion we just had is one thing I really enjoyed is when we were at Hollygrove together. I remember when we were first getting into the project-based learning, each classroom would have a display outside the classroom about what they were learning. And that was so fun, not only for me making it, but going around. We'd break into groups and I'd go to your classroom and tell me what's going on here? What did you learn? And there were these big visual, almost maps, right?
The signature projects.
Yeah.
Those were really very important. I think the signature projects that Malcolm's talking about were so much fun, and I'm still doing them, by the way.
Oh, great.
We don't have the hallways like that, though. We don't have like a bulletin board outside, so I'm putting things up within my room.
Right.
But the great thing about the signature project, it was a project that was spearheaded by the kids.
Yep.
And it included various different subject areas. So it wasn't necessarily centered around reading or writing or math or science or social studies, but it encompassed all of those different things.
Yeah.
My last great signature project, because we're still in the one that we're doing now, but we did one that I thought was phenomenal. I think it was maybe 2 years ago, where when the kids first came to the campus, they thought, we need to focus on ourselves. We need to focus on how we can show people in the community how to have a calm body and a calm heart and a calm mind. And
easier said than done in middle school, but go on.
This is what they came up with.
Yeah.
And so they created a book of different yoga poses that you can do while sitting in your chair. This is great. So like they're stretching while they're in their chair. They're doing all sorts of different things. We had Sarah Lev come as a special guest to teach them yoga poses.
Right.
And we even made special calming jars that you could like look at and think, oh, this is making me so much calmer.
Interesting.
And
Never
then we
heard
would
of
write
calming
about
jars.
it.
Wow.
And we would write about the experience. So there was
Nice.
writing within it. And we would have councils, which for people out there, council is a great chance to problem solve. It's a great chance to talk about things with your kids that are closer to the heart.
Yeah.
And it gives them a chance to feel connected to the experience.
Right.
And we talked about our councils as well. And so our project, it was a year-long project, became about this one little piece of how do we have a calm body, a calm heart, and a calm mind.
Yeah.
And so I was really happy that I did that with them. That was really a lot of fun, a lot of excitement.
That is so cool. And it seems like the kids really get to put their stamp on your classroom.
It was an amazing group that we had last year. They're now in fifth grade, so the last year's kids have moved on from my classroom. But they are an amazing group of kids. I was very lucky to have them.
Yeah. Tell them all I say hello.
Absolutely.
Here's a wild question that I just thought of right now. Have you ever considered doing an audiobook of any of your writings?
That's a great question. The answer is yes. I haven't gotten there yet, but right now, the one book I have out there, you can download by Kindle, or it is also a book that you can just buy a paperback of it. And it's called The Magical Adventures of Brian Leonard. And that's me going ahead and saying, hey, buy it. No, just kidding. But yeah, that's where the two formats are right now.
I would love to hear you do an audiobook because if you live in LA like us, you spend a lot of time in the car.
Oh my gosh.
I told my wife, I was like, I've run out of podcasts. I'm going to listen to audiobooks now.
I think my favorite book for the audiobook, because yes, I'm 45 minutes in the car is probably right now. I'm now hearing again Rumblefish by S.C. Hinton.
Oh, that they made the movie out of it?
That they've made a movie out of it, but you can also download it. And I'm listening to that again.
Oh, I forgot about that.
And that's amazing. And then I also have been listening to a lot of nonfiction. Yeah. And I really enjoyed Henry Winkler's autobiography, and it's listening to the Fonz while you drive in.
You know what? I haven't heard that, but I love his kids' books because a lot of people don't know he's dyslexic. And so he specifically had a whole series of books that I think he still writes. What's the name of that book series again?
I think it's Here's Hank.
Yes.
And he's written quite a few of them. And as somebody who is been open about his dyslexia. Yeah. He has been somebody that has clearly been very eager to share his knowledge of literacy and his feeling about literacy in the characters he writes about.
Talk about being inclusive, trying to include kids that struggle with that to have books.
It's an amazing thing, but his adult book for the adults
his
also.
biography, now I got to get that.
I loved it. It was a great when I was listening to the audiobook, it's great to have the Fonz in your car, basically. Yeah. So for me, as somebody who watched Happy Days, that was really fun. So.
I hope he talks about Barry. I loved him in that TV show. He's an amazing, amazing actor and wonderful person.
I'm not going to ruin anything for you, Malcolm.
Okay. What can I help you promote? So it sounds like if people want to check out your work, the number one place to go is Edutopia, but I know that you often post in LinkedIn too.
Absolutely. Please join me on LinkedIn. I am always posting things about the books I'm reading or my top 10 list for 2025. Yeah. But Edutopia, definitely read the articles and always let me know what you think of them. I love that feedback of when somebody's saying to you like, hey, this was interesting to me. What do you think about this? Yeah. I'd love to engage with you about reading, especially, or writing. And if you're an educator and you're talking about things that are going on in your classroom, I'm always happy to help.
Exchange ideas.
I think that similar to, writing or entertainment or whatever, education is not an isolation thing. If you're not walking into other people's classrooms or going to other schools or talking to other educators, it's a really hard place to be. So please, I'm happy to share with anybody out there.
Really cool. It's been great catching up with you, Adam. I hope we can do this again soon. I really had a good time.
Absolutely. Malcolm, thank you for letting me be on the show. Thanks.
All right. Happy New Year, too.
Bye, everybody.